feel like there is a move of the elevation of the value of worship? Not just here in our church, but definitely here in our church, but across the kingdom, everywhere. I just believe that the value of spending that time in worship is just becoming more and more and more real. And sometimes, you gotta stay in it long enough to get past that, to get past those voices that are saying, when are they gonna stop and let me sit down? Right? And you gotta let yourself get past that. I know I have it too, but you gotta let yourself get past that, because there's something so beautiful on the other side of that. If you will let yourself go there. If you'll just let yourself make it across that and slip into that other realm where we join with the angels, where worship, listen, in heaven, worship happens 24/7.
Hallelujah.
All the time. It never stops. And when we slip into that awareness, when we slip into that realm of the kingdom, it just changes everything. So, anyway. All right. Well, thanks for coming out, everybody. Did y'all come just because Jerry's talking tonight? Like, we got a full house tonight, and y'all came just for Jerry, didn't you? You better come back next week for me. No, Dylan and Missy will be sharing next week, but you don't want to miss that either, because they are missionaries in Guatemala, and we're going to have a good time talking to them and hearing what God's doing with them and all of that. But Jerry and Colleen Jenkins are, other than being our next door neighbors, they're just a fantastic young couple that God has really put on their hearts to just drink the Kool-Aid of this whole connection thing, right? Yeah, absolutely. I know people get weird and worried when I start talking about drinking Kool-Aid. Sorry. I asked Jerry to share with you, because we're doing a new thing. I know some of you have been in connection groups here in this church in the past. I know that some of you come from other churches where you have been in small group ministries of some sort. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to shake your brain around, get all that pulled into one place, and then and just flush it all out, and think and open your mind to a new way of looking at something, okay? Because everybody thinks they know what we're talking about when we talk about connection groups, but you have no idea. It's a whole new thing, and we want you to look at it with fresh, clean eyes, okay? So, let's welcome Jerry.
All right. Hold on first. Let me get set up. I'm treating this like a classroom because I'm a teacher. And the first thing I do in my classroom is I always have to empty my pockets. I don't like things in my pockets. It's one of my weird little quirks. So I spent the last few nights, Colleen and I, before I even begin. See, this is what happens we set all this up, and I have these great notes, and this is probably why I love Dennis's preaching so much, because he doesn't just stick to a script, and I don't teach that way either, so I relate to it so much, and here I am again, because I knew when I got up here, all these things I had planned would fall by the wayside, because God's going to mess it all up, and that's okay. But for me to just stand up here by myself is really, is only because Colleen is mortified to actually be up here. But she's the brains behind this whole thing, and I'll tell you a couple different stories and things like that, but I think that God's had an anointing on her for a long, long time. And me, I'm just a little slower, so it takes me some time to catch up. So she was really carrying the weight of this whole operation for a long time. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I got to share. See, when you start looking for God and paying attention, He really starts messing you up. I'll give you a couple examples. So, today, I'm a teacher. I was on the playground, and had to confront a student who was having a bit of an issue, and we were kind of resolve that issue. And I ended up starting to talk to that student about grace, and how you can show grace and things like that. And I turned around to walk away from the conversation, and I was walking, and I bent down, and I looked down into the mulch. There's a dime there. So, I'm like, all right, God. And I feel like that's how God speaks to me. Like, I'm a pretty ornery guy, and I have a sense of humor where I like to just like kind of wink at people after they know I'm messing with them. And I feel like that's how God kind of messes with me. I'll give you another one. Here's a good fun one. Today I was looking through my wallet for an insurance card, and remember how Dennis was just talking about right before the whole thing started about a breakthrough and things like that, and he feels there's a breakthrough coming. Today I found in my wallet, that I didn't even know I still had, the breakthrough card. So that just popped out, and we were praying. I was like, okay, so that's kind of fun. What else is there? Third one, and this one's, I was ready to charge up on stage before you did. The song that the worship team just played, it's one of my favorite songs. And I guess you can probably guess which line it makes it my favorite song. When I was still your foe, your love fought for me, right? That's what brought me here. I wasn't going to tell this story, but I'm just going to go ahead with it. 8 years ago, I was about as far away from God as I could possibly be, or so I thought. And I had a brother-in-law, who was very graciously trying to get Colleen and I to come and get plugged into a church. He got into a real bad accident. He got burnt, head to toe, third-degree burns. And we were with him in the hospital out in Pittsburgh, and the first thing we did is I prayed for the first time in a long time. That was pretty weird. And then he went in for surgery to get his third-degree burns to see what they could do, if there was anything they could do. And the doctor came out and said that they didn't know what happened, but they're just first-degree burns.
Hallelujah.
That's the first time I really saw God, I think. I probably did before, but that's the first time I really noticed it. So that Sunday, we came here. We came here, and I went to, the next weekend that we went to visit him, I said to him, guess where we went? And he said, where? And I said, church. And his response haunts me to this day, because it is pure love. Because he said, well, if this had to happen so that you would go to church, then I'm glad it did. That man lost his vision for 1.5 years. Couldn't work, still can't work. Now spends his life just serving Christ. His vision came back. There that is. That's love. That's God's love. And so ever since then, 8 years, and we've been all in. All right, I wasn't going to plan on telling all these stories, but God just does that. Okay. I was going to tell you one more, but I'll just wait till later. All right, so, hey, Peg. Hi. Can you flick me to the next slide?
Can I flick you?
Yeah. Connecting community. Oh, here's our vision statement. If you were here on Sunday, you saw that around here we live in community through strong and abiding relationships. Abiding, I love that word. It means to be connected and to actually be invested in one another. We live in strong abiding relationships with our connection group. I know that for many ways, but I know that because today my phone was blowing up. Colleen and I we have a group chat with ours, and they were all wishing us luck and praying for us and thinking about us. And I just thought, well, that's pretty perfect. Thank you. I'm going to use that tonight as just one of the perks of being connected with other like-minded individuals. All right, so biblical example. I had to find one because Dennis used the one I was going to talk about on Sunday at church. So it is, two are better than one because they have good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. I love the Message version of that because it says, can you round up a third? I love that idea. Rounding up like-minded individuals to come to battle with you, to grow your community. That's what we're all about here with these connection groups. Can we round up more individuals to support us, to grow with us, to do life with us? Okay. I love Dennis's example of the zebra who strays from the herd, and the lie is lunch, right? If you're not with the herd and you stray out, that's called lunch. I don't know if anyone grasps that, so I did find a video of a lion eating a zebra. Can you cue that up? Okay. I'm just kidding. I didn't actually do that, but I thought that'd be pretty morbid. I wouldn't actually do that. And one thing that kind of mediocre crowd, we'd work on that. One thing that this sticks out to me is that if either of them falls down, one can help the other up. Everyone should have someone they can turn to in a time of need.
Amen.
And I love the way Dennis always says it. You don't need to know everyone, but everyone should know someone, right? You need to have, everyone needs to have someone that they can turn to, can rely on, can count on, can pick them up, okay? And that's what connection groups are all about. Alrighty, so connection groups. So next slide. All right, so what does that look like here? If Dennis kind of talked about it. If you did the let's talk about it guides before, this is not that. Okay? This is quite simply, and this is going to sound simple because it is, it's quite simply doing life together. Okay? We're talking about getting together with like-minded individuals and building meaningful relationships based around our internal need for connection with others. You'll continue doing the things you're already doing, you're just now doing them with the connection group, right? Believe it or not, we do have a need for connection. So many of us think that we are isolated and we can do it alone and we're all powerful and all this, that, and the other. But the truth of the matter is, or the fact of the matter is that, number one, you're capable of more than you know, but you're also, you're guarding yourself from something you don't know you're guarding yourself from, right? You're preventing yourself from being connected with people because you think, you have this illusion that you can do it all on your own. And that's just not how we were created to live this life, right? And we say, Colleen put this part in here, it's good. You're doing the things you're doing now, right? Eating dinner, meet singles. Yeah, there they are. Doing things you're doing already, right? Except now you're just doing it with people who are like-minded individuals, right? People who can encourage you and support you and you're growing your community, right? So, what are some of those things? What does that look like? How does that actually, what will that manifest into in our church connection groups, right? To just get down to it, we're talking about getting together with individuals twice a month-ish. If you want to do more than that, great. If everyone in your group has to get together more than that, awesome. But we say twice a month because we understand that everyone has busy lives, right? You're busy, you have practices, and your kids have things, and you have work commitments and different things like that. So we think that twice a month is a good number. When we are together, we're going to talk about what's going on in each other's lives. It's a time for casual conversation, not a time for digging into the deepest, darkest secrets of each other's lives. It's a time just to hang out and do life together. Right? So when you're there, you're just catching up, just hanging out. I mean, it sounds so simple, but there's a little caveats to it. One thing that we always try to incorporate is food. Connection is better when there's food involved. Right? It's quite simple. Whether you have dinner, you have snacks, you have desserts, whatever it is, someone bring food, right? have fun together, right? This is before I started coming to church, I always had this misconception about what Christians were. And I used to always think that if you're a Christian, you can't have fun. I don't know where that came from. I guess the devil. But have fun together. Play a game. Do an activity. Share hobbies with one another. Right? When we were with our connection group, we're always trying to think of little things to do. We always have little kids running around, so we're trying to do different things to get the kids involved and hanging out and doing life together and having fun. Right? It's not connection groups isn't about sitting in a circle, sitting across from everyone. All right, I'm going to share about this, and you share about this, and you share about this. No, it's not that time. It's time to get together and have some fun and just do life together. Stand by. The next one is grow together, right? And I'll be completely honest. On Sunday, after church, if you were here Sunday, you got rocked. On Sunday after church, I went home and immediately texted our connection group, and I said, I'm dropping the ball. I think we have we're developing great relationships, right? We're doing life together. I mean, we're going on little vacations together. We're just doing little trips together. We're getting together at each other's houses, and it's a great time. I said, but I'm not facilitating or fostering an environment where there's enough focus on God and enough areas for growth and enough time for us to actually kind of abide in one another when it comes to our Christian lifestyles, right? Not to say that we're sitting there sinning, but we're not, I don't know, I just feel like God's dropping the ball here. So, you're not supposed to sit there and just, right, this is time to connect, but there also needs to be a focus on God in there as well. So, this one's a big one for me. It's convicting because I feel like I was not doing a great job at this, and Colleen came up with a great idea. Right, she's the brains, so she always does that. You'll start to notice on the app, at the bottom of the sermon notes, you'll see a thing that's called Connection Points, I believe is what we're naming it. And it's going to be opportunities for you and your group members. That's right, I said you and your group members. Notice how I called some of you connectors already. You just maybe don't know it yet. You and your group members to talk about this past week's sermon, but not theologically diving deep. You have to be a Bible expert, because I am definitely not one. But it's a way that you could relate what happened to what was talked about in the sermon to your own life, right? A story that could generate something you could talk about, and what it's going to do is it's going to help you when you're talking amongst yourselves to kind of fill that dead air, right? Because I'm going to be honest with you, when you all sit down for that first time over dinner or snacks or whatever you're going to do, there's going to be a point where everyone's going to look at each other and you're going to say, now we want to talk about it. Right? This gives you an opportunity to kind of get the ball rolling, the conversation going, and it's about the sermon, but it's also just a way to kind of relate it to your own life. Another thing that we want group members to do is to serve together. We feel like that when you are out serving other people, it helps you grow spiritually, but it also helps you grow together as a community of connectors in the members of your connection group. So we're encouraging all groups to serve together, and you can do that through Connection Serves as well, right? See how that kind of ties in perfectly? This Sunday is the last day to sign up. A little shout out. And lastly, pray together, right? Praying over one another, praying for one another, the things that are going on in your lives, and staying connected with each other throughout the week. We do that in our group by group chat. We have a group text message where everyone in the group is on the text messaging. If there's something comes up, it's a quick, hey, can you pray about me for this, and this, and this, whatever. We stay connected like that for anniversaries, birthdays, different little things. So that's pretty much it. That's not all it is, but that is the kind of bare bones of what we're looking for in connection groups. And if you're saying to yourself, well, Jerry, what? That sounds very simple, or where's the structure? Where's the, where's the, guideline I have to follow? I'm not going to give you that tonight because number one, there's not really one. However, when you sign up to be a connector, the first thing that will happen is you'll have an onboarding where Colleen and I will invite you into our home or meet you at church, whatever. It works for all of our schedules. And we'll sit down with you and we'll walk through each step. And it's about a 45 to an hour long meeting. And we're going to talk to you about what it means to be a connector, some different ideas for your group, talk about your group's vision, help you develop that, and just walk through every little piece as we roll this out together. Because we understand that if you are stepping into this role as a connector here, notice the language, connector, not leader, connector, you're going to need to be supported. And we want to support you, and we want to have a relationship with you, right? We feel like this vision will work well if all connectors are also connected, right? So Colin and I are making sure that we sit down with every connector individually to get to know you, to build a relationship with you, and to help you along the way. Question for you. How many of you feel qualified to facilitate an environment of spiritual growth for 10 to 12 other people? A couple of you. Okay, ready? Next question. How many of you think that God could use what you have been through to help one other person go through something similar? Yep. That's it. We don't need you to sit down and be a Bible expert. We need you to come alongside people, lift them up, support them, hold them accountable, right? Have a meaningful relationship with them. Take responsibility for them, for yourself, right? And if you raise your hand to either one of those questions, you're the exact kind of people that we need. And I say need because this church itself wants to be connected, right? It's in the name. But ever since these sermon series have started, so many people have expressed an interest in getting connected and being plugged into a connection group. I'm going to call you guys out. I have to. Allie and Austin, they just got baptized, like a month ago?
August 25th.
Okay, a little over a month ago. The one day they came out to the connection table and said, hey, we'd like to get plugged in. Right? Probably like that, public. And I said, well, hey, do you think about being a connector? And they were like, I said, so come to our house, come on over, right? We'll have you over, and we exchanged numbers, and we had them over, and they were just kind of checking out. They had no idea, right? They were like, I don't know. And we started talking, and you could just see it. They're like, yep, we want some of this. We want to be connectors. We want to get people, we want to bring people together for this. Awesome, okay. So we send them away with this packet that we give you that you can fill out. It just kind of helps you. It's not like homework, but it helps you to kind of to create a vision statement and everything like this. And Allie gave it to me on Sunday, and Colleen and I took it home and read it. And Colleen, the reason she's not up here is because she can't talk about God without crying. And so she's like reading Allie's thing. She's like weeping. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, it's like, you can tell it's just like God inspired. This is, and I read it and I was like, oh, if I was the weeping kind, I'd probably weep too. They are just like completely on fire about the connection, about getting connected, about connection groups. I'll tell you how on fire they are. Austin drove here tonight, 4 hours from his job. He works 3.5, 4 hours away. Got out of work, drove here, gonna stay until 3 a.m. and drive back. I mean, yeah, that's serious. Like, Holy Spirit, like, I want to get connected stuff. Like, yeah. So, we are looking for people like you, right? we don't give ourselves enough credit for what we can do and the impact that we can have on others. I talked about Colin and I coming here 8 years ago, and when we were living in an apartment in Wrightsville at the time, and we came and checked this place out, and I mean, we loved it, but the thing that really kept us here was a connection group. We were looking to purchase a house, and we were looking up in the Harrisburg area, and Suzanne's like, I don't think that's going to happen. Suzanne's in a connection group. She's like, I don't think that's going to happen. That's not because God's plan for you. And so no, here's a plan. We live next door to them now. So didn't see that one coming. But this is a very broad overview here of what connectors are and what connection groups are. And I wish I had more time to dive a little deeper into it. But I do encourage you to reach out to Colin and I, just to learn more. I think that there's a lot of people in this room that Colin and I have personally prayed for, and there's people in here that I feel like God's probably laying it on your hearts to step up and step out. So I would encourage you to follow that tug, because God's plan for you is so much better than yours. And when you start to hear his voice and you start to follow that, he's going to show you and do more for you and show you open doors that you just didn't even know existed. That's what we started doing, right? I don't know why we were in this role. Because we're not super like outgoing people. Right? There's people in here, and please don't take offense to this, but I've been coming here 8 years, and I've seen you for like 6 or 7 years, and I don't know your name. Because I'm not the kind of person that's going to walk up and be like, hey, I'm Jerry, how are you? It just makes me uncomfortable. But God has known, I think for a long time, that this is what he wanted us to do. You know, I did this story, and I wasn't going to tell this story because I didn't think I had time. This is just an awesome God story. And I'm done. Give me a microphone, and it's hard to get me out. Get it out of my hands. Dennis was talking about how he saw Colin on Sunday, saw this in Colin and I when we first joined their connection group. That this could be something that he could be leading us into something. He was up here talking, and he talked about what a connector is, and he talked about Aunt Sally. This Aunt Sally, if you remember that kind of analogy he gave, is and Aunt Sally is the person who looked after connection group. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, and like God did his God thing to me, and Psalm 84:7 popped into my head. And I gave like this. I was like, you're kidding me. And God like gave me the wink. Gotcha. Psalm 84:7. 20-ish years ago, about 22 years ago, my grandmother passed away. My grandmother was my next door neighbor, and my grandmother was one of my best friends growing up. She was ornery as all get out. She and I used to go and sit and listen to Johnny Cash together. And she used to tell me dirty jokes and make me tell me what to tell my mother. But I got a lot of my weird little quirks from my grandmother, right? I could go on and on, but she and I were buddies. And about 22 years ago, she passed away. At that point, I had no interest in God. I had nothing to do with God, and I couldn't even tell you the last time I opened a Bible. I don't even know how I knew there was a Bible in my house or where there was one, but it was the day of her funeral, and I was going to speak at her funeral because she was my best friend, and I needed to say something about her. So I got her a Bible. A gold Bible. I'm pretty sure it was one of the ones from the Gideons, and it might have been stolen from a hotel room. King James Version. And the only Bible verse I knew was Psalms 23. The Lord is my shepherd. So I was looking for that Bible verse, because I was going to figure out what that said, where that was, dog-ear the page, and read that, because I figured that was from the Bible, so it was a good thing to say. And I turned into Psalm, and I opened it and found it and was flicking through, and I landed on a page that had Psalm 84:7. And I saw it, and it jumped right out. It said that you go from strength to strength. So I stood up at that funeral, and I said, this family relied on my grandmother to keep us all connected. Every time there was a holiday or again, family gathering, we all came there, and grandma made sure everyone was connected. My grandma had 9 kids, and with all the grandchildren, and they all still live in the same area because they're a bunch of rednecks, they get together, and there's like 60 of them. And everyone was worried. That was the thing. Everyone was worried when Gran died that everyone was going to fall apart. We weren't going to have our family gatherings. And I got up and I said, they go from strength to strength. We will stay connected because that's the model she showed. And we will remain connected and abiding in one another because that's just who we are and what we do. 22 years later, after I closed that, I never opened a Bible again until I came back here probably. So that was a good, 14 years that I went without anything Bible-ish or Christ-like, or so I thought. And then I realized that God planted a seed when I was a knucklehead kid running as far away from him as possible through my best friend. So, when you sign up to be a connector and get connected, you don't know how God's going to work, and you don't know the seed he's planting, but just trust in him, trust in the people around you, build those relationships, and some great things are going to happen in this church and in this community. Thanks for coming out tonight. I really appreciate it. Please see Colleen and I if you have any questions, and we will dig deeper into this for you and with you and support you guys as we move through it. Thanks.
Get all your luggage loaded back up. Hey, all right. So he left me a couple of minutes here to talk, and you left me more than I thought you would actually. I know how it is when you get a microphone in your hand. It's hard to. Yeah, great job, man. Come on, just give it up. I just think back to sitting in Jerry and Colleen's living room or sitting out in their back patio, talking through all this stuff and just hearing their heart for this ministry and their heart for how much it's impacted them and how they just want to share that with everybody else. And man, when I was sitting there with them talking about this, any of you that's been around me, that know me any at all, I have a hard time letting things go. I have a hard time releasing things because I have issues, right? We got to celebrate recovery for that. But when I heard their heart on this thing, I just knew that this was what God had already preordained, put into place, had a plan 22 years ago. That's such an encouraging story. Because that's just so perfect, exactly perfect to what I think we need. Listen, I know that for the most part, church over the years has grown into being simply another educational system. But that is not what church is. Of course, church includes education. It includes learning. It includes equipping. It includes growing in our knowledge of God and understanding of Him. But without the relationships, without the connections, it's just another bunch of information, right? The relationships are where we take that information and put it into practice. It's where you release it through your life into the lives of people around you. And God began to deal with me after Suzanne had the stroke a year and a half ago, or however long it's been now. She had led connection groups up to that point and did a great job of it. But once that happened, she couldn't do that anymore. And God does this to me. He uses these weird things. He uses these kind of, the bottom fell out of something, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, He hits me with this whole brand new way of looking at it. And then I have to spend another year and a half to 2 years to try to figure out what that means. And and what that looks like. And I'm just so thankful that, I think I went and talked to Jerry and Colleen, like, off the cuff about it one time, or maybe they even just overheard me talk about it on a Wednesday night or something, and the next thing I knew, I went and they had like this whole notebook full of notes that they had sat in their living room and worked out and talked out well before I ever talked about them doing, like, leading the ministry, but they were just talking about for their group, and what they thought it looked like, and their language was exactly what God was speaking to me, and so it was just so clear. I believe that I've said this since 2008, maybe even before that. I believe that we are supposed to be a church of groups, not a church with groups. And what that means is that we are a church that is made up of groups that do life together. It doesn't mean they're cliquey or they're exclusive or that they're, right? Come on. Get over that. Let all that go. That's all. That's junior high stuff, right? That's 12-year-old stuff. We don't. Listen, you're not going to know everybody, but you need to know somebody. And you're not going to be known by everybody, but you need to be known by somebody. And you need to be invested in the. Listen, there's one thing that holds a church together. It's called relationship. Relationship is the glue. Your relationship with God and your relationship with each other. That is the glue that holds a church together. When somebody leaves a church, it's because one of those relationships or both of those relationships broke down. Every time. I've been doing this a long time. I know exactly what happens. And listen, it's in that kind of connection group. It comes down to three things Jerry said. Building relationships together. Caring for one another. And holding each other accountable. That's what families do. Right? Families. Big redneck families, right? I come from a big redneck family myself. My grandmother held the whole thing together. Little Jenny, she was about that tall. And she ruled the roost, And when she died, so did the family. Because there was no connector there. And somebody has to just take responsibility for it. Somebody just has to say, okay, I'll just be the one I'll just be the one that creates the environment where people can connect around me. It's not that you're going to be the teacher. You don't need to be a theologian. You don't need to be, the principal of the class. You don't need to be any of that kind of stuff. All you really need to be is available. That's all it takes. It's just to be available. What I would really love to see, and this, I know that people can't deal with no structure. I get it. I know. Because I keep telling people, no, we just want to hang out. Well, hang out and do what? What are we going to do when we hang out? What do you do when you hang out with your friends? Like, do you have friends over and pull out a study guide? Pop in a DVD? No, probably not, right? So, how about, or your family? It's about that. But if we simply recognize that there is holiness in hanging out, that there is holiness in just spending time together, because sooner or later, somebody's going to go through something and they're going to need you. They're going to need all of that casual time that you've spent together, licking ice cream or eating watermelon or playing volleyball or, watching a movie. They're going to need that time when you're in the hospital emergency room. Because it's that time of hanging out, doing seemingly meaningless things just for fun, that when you're in that hospital emergency room, or when you get that call, or you get that thing, or you go through that stuff, got somebody to call. You got somebody to reach out to. Or when you need somebody to celebrate with, you're like, we're going to have a party. Who are we going to invite? No problem. I got 12 people on speed dial right here. Boom. Right? I would also love to see it regionally. Right? And we're not doing this, we're not like locking it down so that only Red Lion people can meet with Red Lion people and only Dover people can meet with Dover people, right? We're not closing that, we're not doing that. But if you need a place to start, if you need a way to start, and you live in Manchester, you know what we'd love to have is a Manchester connector. So that when the person comes to us, or Jerry, Colleen, one of us, and says, I really want to get connected, but I don't really know what to do. First question I'm going to ask them, where do you live? Manchester? Oh, I got that person for you. I know exactly who you need to talk to. I live in Wrightsville. Okay, I know exactly who you, right? Because listen, if one of my favorite teachers talks about little old me. Little old me. If God can use little old me to impact a life, well, I'm telling you now, this is how God can use you to impact a life. Many lives. By opening up your living room. By opening up your patio. Right? It's not complicated. Don't make it complicated. If you want to teach a class or you want to do a Bible study or something, we have other avenues that you can go that you can do that through. Those have a start date and an end date, right? That's how you can kind of figure that out. With connection groups, what we're really looking for is groups that do life together. I don't mean you can't ever change if you get in a group and you're like, I just don't like these people. Well, we can help you out of that and get you into a place where you can find people that, not everybody's going to click. But ultimately, you need to be doing life with somebody. Right? If you're here on Wednesday night, you're the weirdos we're looking for to be connectors. Right? Come on. And like Jerry said, we're not asking you to add one more thing to your week. We're asking you to take something that you're already doing during your week and just invite some other people into it. Right. That's all. You eat dinner every night, right? We'll just invite a few more people into it. You understand what I'm saying? But we want to create a framework. We want to create a network I have a 4-hour teaching on this that I've put together over the last year and a half. We want to create a place where everybody has the opportunity to connect. Because we can stand up here and talk about connection all we want to, but if we don't have anywhere for them to connect to, then we're just running our mouths. Amen? Here's the thing. I can't do that by myself. Jerry and Colleen can't do that by themselves. The elders can't do that. We need you. We need you to say, okay, I got room for 8 people in my living room, so find 8 people and say, hey, let's be in a group together. Right? Our real target goal is 10 to 12 people in a group. We don't want them to get too big because that gets too whatever, But if you can't do 10 to 12, you can do 6 to 8. By all means. By all means. Are you with me? Listen, there is holiness in this. I know it don't sound all that churchy or all that religious or all that whatever. Stop that. Don't listen to that. Because that's not the glue that's going to hold this thing together. The devil just wants us to stay churchy and religious so we'll all be like separate from each other, looking judgmentally at one another and all that. You get what I'm saying, right? I had a good friend who was an Italian, and I've always envied. Since we lived here, I always envied his family, big Italian family. They were just, man, that's where I learned to hug other men. I'd never hugged other men until I met this guy, and his whole family. They just hugged everybody. And then I realized why I loved that so much. Because I had been away from my family for that long, and I had lost what it felt like to be connected. We want to create that, but we can't create that without you. Right? All right. Won't y'all stand and let's pray. Father, we just thank you for Jerry and Colleen for their commitment, their devotion, their work, and investment into this. Lord, I just pray right now that you would draw, that you would just quicken the hearts of those who you have called to do this. We know that this is something that you've called us to do, and so we know that you will provide. And so we just pray, Lord, that you would quicken the hearts of those who are meant to step into these positions and step into these opportunities to make a difference in the lives of the people around them. And Lord, it's going to be messy, we know, because family's messy, and that's okay. But it's your family, and we love you, and we love your family, and we're just thankful to be a part of it, and grateful for the opportunity to make any kind of difference that we can. In Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Thanks for coming, everybody. God bless you. See you Sunday.